Hello dreamers, welcome back to my channel. Did you miss me? No? I rested for an entire week after working hard on the last project. Nah, that's not true, I'm already working on something new. Also because you had a little taste of it in my shorts. But then YouTube decided to block my video even though I then post another one. I'm having trouble finding a good background music that I can use. If any of you can help me, I'd be forever grateful. But let's talk about today's tutorial. I want to explain how I set up this project at the direction level. Let's start by saying that this short film was made using the single sequence shot technique. Meanwhile, look at Dreams, how it slows down at this point. He's sweating a lot to render all this. Run away! As I was saying, I made this short in a single sequence shot, but what does that mean exactly? For this project I started by saying that it was a much simpler way to do it. Basically, it's a mix of characters, scenery and effects in a one big carousel. A bit like if I had made a big soup where all the elements rotate in harmony, without changing scenes and where the transitions are created by the movement itself of what happens on the screen, without any artifacts to move from one scene to another. You probably haven't understood exactly what I'm trying to tell you yet, but we will see it in detail right away. But first, as always, I invite you to watch the video until the end if you are not already asleep. Comment what you think of what you see, put like, ring the bell and... To give you better understanding of what I'm talking about, I need to give you a sneak peek at my next project. You have seen a little bit, but this is really going to be a huge project. Before going back to the Super Mario project, I want you to understand what I'm telling you, what is meant by sequence shot. The sequence shot can be composed of many scenes that follow one another. As you can see here, where we find scene 1 and scene 2. These are obviously only the first of many others, while the Super Mario project is composed of a single large sequence. And here the discussion on transitions begins, with the single sequence shot method to make the transitions from one moment to another. In the movie, everything must be connected and happen naturally. There are also some movies that have exploited this system, such as 1917. Even if it's a fake single sequence shot, there are some points where the scene changes and transitions are used that still make us believe that the film isn't a single shot, because they are so well edited inside it. Here instead we can see the opposite example, where there is a change of scene between 1 and 2. There is no particular fade between one scene and another, because there is no need for it in this case. The transition is given by the script itself. The spaceship detaches from the mothership and flies towards the planet. So it's natural to think that in the next scene there is the entry into the atmosphere. Even if the scene changes completely, then the viewer understands what is happening and can continue to enjoy the movie. As we will see in a single shot, the director does not want to make these transitions, as if everything took place in a single point. More difficult for a long-running film for sure. But here we are back on the Super Mario project. As you can see, it is all contained in this big group. If I hide it, poof, everything disappears. So this is what I mean by single sequence shot. My original idea was to make a short film based on the old side-scrolling video games, like Super Mario. Once the protagonist was created, I would throw him into the scenario, making him fly from one side to the other. So I started from the character. Everything that happens on the screen follows his movement. He acts a bit like a transition that is linked to the elements of the scenario because the spectator is concentrated on his movements. Conceiving the script in this way has greatly speeded up my work without having to think too much about how to continue the story. I combined a succession of dynamic scenes until the conclusion. Now I'm going to remove some elements so as to leave Mario all alone. As you can see in this project, there are really a lot of elements, and therefore traces. It was difficult to optimize the work to ensure that Dreams could render everything without problems. If I had even just one track, the whole thing will probably explode. But I still want to say that Dreams is a very powerful tool that allow us to create really interesting things if we consider that we are on an iPad. I hear many complaining about the difficulty of use, but as I have already told, we must not concentrate it on working here frame by frame, but looking for new solutions because with the tools that it provides us, we can create incredible things. When a complete flipbook system arrives, then we could talk about it. But for the moment, let's make the most of what we have because it's already a lot. Maybe we are there? Damn, how many levels did I put? Now let's do a test to see if I removed everything. I would say that from how fluid it moves, I have removed practically everything. Dreams is thanking me right now. Now, like a stupid Mario flies inside the scene, alone. This is to make you understand that he is the great protagonist and everything revolves around him. The idea of the single sequence shot comes from him, as I was telling you. He is the one who acts as a transition for everything that happens around him, and this made my work much easier. In this way you can better appreciate the movements, like the green screen that is used in movies. Obviously I didn't animate Mario for the whole film and then add the other elements, but it was a work parallel to the protagonist movements. I gradually added all the other things too. But the starting point is the character who flows through the scene trying to save himself from what happens around him. But let's start from the background layer where we find stars, earth and a kind of solar wind. This very simple initial base to create with a parallax effect immerses us in this space, and with a few elements you can create a very three-dimensional and dynamic scenography. As you can see, if I add the logo in the foreground, the effect is even more marked, and the idea of three-dimensionality is incredible. On this basis of scenography, I then moved the characters and the other elements. If the background elements, like the stars, once the animations are set on the whole timeline, we can't forget about them, everything that happens in the foreground must be coherent and respect the dynamics and timing between them. But it's much easier to manage a project like this here on Dreams, where I only have to worry about the movements of the characters and secondary objects like asteroids or explosions. A single sequence shot, so it works very well, and in this way it's definitely easier to set up for our movie. Where we have many different scenes, where I will have to, for example, create a variety of different environments for different shots, will be a much longer job. Considering that you have to draw everything, whether you do it here or on Procreate. Finding solutions like this, for example, can therefore incredibly speed up the workflow. There are practically no transitions between one sequence and another, but it's like a journey inside the scenario, and elements such as in this case the asteroids move from right to left. Use the concept of a single sequence shot for your project. I'm sure you will speed up your work process. The only limit is your imagination. Another really interesting point we can see here: Mario and his little friend fly towards an entire galaxy. Practically the passage is natural without the need for transition. See how the background changes and adapts to the characters flying through it. Obviously the idea of the single sequence shot here works very well, but it's not easy to find the right idea to exploit this technique so that it works. This is why many do not use it. The job of a director is to make a storyboard, for example, to give life to several scenes that I will then join with the transitions. Here I didn't even do a storyboard. I wanted the character to go from point A to point B, and in between things had to happen that would make the journey very difficult. After passing inside the galaxy, the two characters fly towards these asteroids. Here the scene becomes even more dynamic and dramatic, but everything happens in a natural and continuous way. The scene ends with the spaceship flying off the screen and Mario following right after. Without any transition, Bowser arrives with his flame and wants to burn everyone. In the next tutorials we will also see the animations on our little dragon. There are some very interesting solutions that I used to make it seem to almost come out of the screen. Stay connected. What do you think about the single sequence shot? How do you work? For me to create interesting short film here on Dreams, it's really a very useful method. It's a method that allows you to work very quickly, leaving space for the fun part of the work, that is creating the most incredible animations that come to mind and unleashing your creativity. Observe experimentally and create what you like. It's not over yet for us creativities in spite of artificial intelligence. Human genius will remain irreplaceable. I hope you found today's video interesting. It was a slightly different tutorial than usual, but I wanted to show you the design of this short movie. Let me know in the comment what you think. Thanks for watching and